Hey there, Mike Giannotti back in St. Michael's Forge, where I have no idea what I'm doing, but we're getting stuff done and learning. I'm learning a lot on this one as I go. So again, here is that fantasy chopper I've been working on. It's shaping up, looking pretty good. A couple of last things I need to do tonight. So first off, we've got brass dust. As I mentioned, it's not quite a perfect fit here. I don't have a mini mill or any of that kind of stuff, and my skills on doing the drilling and the hand filing, especially on a knife like this where there is no defined handle going up and then little outtakes, I'm just not that good. And hey, it is what it is. But I did get it fairly tight. But what I'm going to do now is take this brass dust. We'll be working out in just a moment on the desk. I'm going to mix up some epoxy, a little bit of epoxy, not a lot. I believe I have a syringe in there somewhere. I'm going to dig for that first. And then we'll take some of this brass dust. We're going to mix that in with the epoxy so it looks like almost, like brass, but almost like brass putty. And we're going to use, if I find the syringe, we're going to gently inject that along these different areas there. And then on the back here too, for this piece, you can see I got a little gap there. So I'll do the same there. While that's drying and getting nice and set, then I'll be getting stuff ready to work on sealing the handle. So I have nothing on the handle yet. I need to do a nice sealant finish. I'm still tossing back and forth. So let me show you what I'm thinking of. Maybe some people can send suggestions while I'm waiting here, or while I'm doing all this tonight. So two different things. Originally, I was leaning straight up towards old school boiled linseed oil, right? Putting that on it. But then I was like, well, is that going to seal it enough? So then I start thinking, well, maybe I should do some of this. And this is General Finishes. Water-based top coat, exterior 450 satin. So it's clear, it's a satin, and it would put a thin layer, rub it in, rub it on good, wait for that to dry, rub it on another layer, do a little light sanding on it, wait for it to dry. I'm not sure which I'm going to do. So it's still a toss-up. If you have ideas, send them my way. So I'm going to put these over here for now. That's where we're at. I'm going to get started. I'll have some time in between stuff. I'm going to start plotting out. I've got that knife competition coming. And at the same time, I want to start working on the knives I have for the outdoor kitchen knives because I want to get that kind of stuff rocking. This blade has been all consuming once I got back into it. So many things I just do not know how to do, and I was trying to teach myself as I went. But again, I'm happy. I'm super happy with it. This thing is super solid. It is already a hacker. It has our chopper. Let's see if I got something here. Trying to make sure I don't do my hand. Right? So I can chop now, and I haven't even sharpened it yet. So the bevel on this, I'm very happy with. Overall, I'm just really happy with this knife. After all that dries, I will have to, tomorrow, before I sharpen, I'm going to clean off the oil I have on the blade. And then I'm also tonight going to do this. I'm going to place a little bit of rebluing, I think, right now. I don't know, should I do it now? Some bluing again, just to make sure I'm nice and touched up here on the handle. I'm not going to. We'll see as we go. So let me get started working and quit talking. The knife is nearing the end. Arr! And I'm just very happy with it. It's come out really well. All right, let's get started. All right, so it is pouring outside. We had exactly one trick-or-treater. One trick-or-treater. We have in a major thunderstorm. I'll be lucky if we don't lose power. What I've got here is the brass powder, very fine. I'm not putting on a respirator. I'm just going to be very careful with it. We've got our syringe. We'll put our final piece in. I've got here a little popsicle stick. No, we're not making popsicles unless you want to call this brassicles. So yeah, that's not funny. And then we have our JB weld, right? Clear weld. And so I've got the quick setting epoxy. One is, doesn't tell, part A and part B. Part A, resin hardener. So let's go ahead. We're going to start in with a bit of resiner. All right, and I don't need very much. I'm already going to have more than I need. This is going to be a throwaway. So note to self, good idea to have those sitting around. And next step here is mix that up nice and good. All right, so this stuff sets in about 5 minutes. It says sets in 5 minutes. I don't know that it goes that quick. It's pretty quick though. So we have a limited window of time. There we go. So we've got that. And now what I want to do is we're going to open up our brass here. First time opening. Got a nice little Ziploc. There we go. And we are going to simply pour. You can see that. There we go. Pouring that brass dust right in there. All right, I'm going to put this off to the side. And we're going to mix this in with the resin. So now you can see what I'm getting here is kind of a slurry. It's like liquid brass. There we go. So our next step, we are going to, hey, does this not come out? Has this got some kind of safety mechanism in it? It does. It's not allowing me. There we go. Didn't want to let me through. So I'm going to scoop some of this in. Yeah, I'm not too worried. Again, this is a throwaway syringe, and it's a note to self. Get yourself some cheap syringes like this to keep on hand. Now, certainly if you had a mill, this process should be a lot cleaner and neater. Shouldn't have little jagged edges like me, and I know that there's people who are much more skilled than me who are probably laughing. But I've already heard from a couple of people saying they want to see how this works. And everything I've looked up and read sounds pretty positive. And I'm going to say we are about set. There we go. So we're going to go ahead, put our stopper back in. Very nice. Woo. And it started already squirting some of that out. I did not want to do yet. We're going to now take our knife and we're going to be moving and securing the knife over here. Let's see if I can get that in there. There we go. There's our little cloth. Very good. And what I want to do then is just kind of secure this. And I use a cloth because I don't want to scratch it. There we go. Go get our syringe. A pair of spectacles for me so I can actually see what the heck I'm doing. That's pretty cool. So normally I would time lapse all this, but because there was interest, I'm actually doing full-on video. And I'm putting it on just like I'd put on caulking, right? So I'm running a bead. Pretty cool. And then I'm going to come up under here and squirt in a bead. There we go. And that's that part. All right, next up, we've got this base here. So I'm going to come in from this angle here. And we're going to apply that in there. That's coming on through, good. And I'm going to do the same up in here. Ooh, I got a lot going on. There we go. All right, so all of that's covered. Now I'm going to give it, before I start wiping down, it's all obviously all on the brass right now. And that's fine. We're going to wipe that clean in a minute. And I got some on the handle. That I do want to get off. But I want it to kind of gum up a bit before I start doing that. And the reason is because I don't want to risk pulling that out. I'm going to have to undo this. All right. Yeah, definitely do not need to have that, nor want it on the handle itself. There we go. That's cleaning up rather nicely. There we go. Oh, and I got some up on here. So again, we don't want that really setting up on the wood. It's already starting to get a little tacky and getting messy as it gets on the rag and then wipes off into another spot. Okay, there we go. Oh, I got some on this side as well. So we're going to grab that. And it seems to be done with the whole running part, which is a good sign. And I think it means I can start to reasonably, do my wipes, start to clean. It'll just make cleaning up after. I'm still gonna have to do some buffing out, right? But this will certainly make that a lot easier if I clean up portions now. So that's what we're doing. I don't know if I'm getting out of camera here. I'm all over the place. Yeah, I'm pretty excited about this stuff. There we go. Oh yeah. And then just like a bead, you know, have you ever taken a bead of caulk and then kind of run your finger along? Well, right now I'm doing that with this cloth, but similar effect. Let's run that one up. And the other thing I read about this stuff and from people is that you're actually, once it dries, you're actually able to sand and polish it up. And I'm running out of clean cloth there, so I'm going to go to this old one here. You're actually able to sand and polish it up just like you would the regular brass. So that's another kind of exciting thing about this. It looks all good there except for one little spot. So I'm going to need to get that in just a moment. I just want to make sure anything else here, any other excess is off. So I'm thinking one little extra dab there. What did I do with my syringe? Oh, I dropped it. Hopefully it'll even squirt. We'll find out here. Where did I get the spot? I think we're done with this. Yeah. So I apologize for making you watch this whole process. But again, this is my first time. I had people asking about it. And it went reasonably well, I'm going to say, for the first time trying it. So certainly you want to have tight fittings. You don't have to rely on this by any stretch. But if you got some gaps, and you know, I'm doing this with brass, but it could be the same with copper. I heard somebody mentioned copper powder, you know, it could, or copper dust. It could be steel dust, right? Some powdered steel that you use like you use for Damascus. But where you need that filling, there we go. That's in. So let's stop. All right, so this is where we're at. We've put the stuff on. I did a little bit of work with the sand, real light sandpaper, 400 grit and 1,000 grit. I'm going to touch up the brass afterwards. But what we're going to do here is, you can see it's all filled in, right? So I've got that stuff is filled in all the cracks nicely. It's set up for, you know, pretty quickly. I got all that done. But while that's going, it's going to take a while. Now I'm going to put a nice light coat of, what did I say I was using? I decided to go ahead with the Boiled Linseed oil. I made my choice, Boiled Linseed. We're going to go old school because I know it's also good for sealing and protecting metal, and I've got metal on the back here, you know, the steel that shows through. I'm gonna let that dry, then tomorrow I will take some sandpaper. I can't even talk right now. I'm gonna take sandpaper. We're gonna go ahead and touch up in there, and we'll buff out, and we'll go up to a real nice high grit. Again, then I'll not strip it, but I'll re-blue the blade itself. And at that point, it's ready for sharpening. So we are fairly close. So let's go ahead. We're going to get this set up in here. I think since I had a lot of questions about this, what we'll do is, for the videos, I'm going to put each individual video up here on Instagram, because I had a number of people here pinging me about all this. And, oh, it's right there. Like, where is it? Now I see it. It's right here. So here we have this here. And we're going to go ahead. Let's get the linseed. I already have my hands gloved off. And I guess it's just get to work on it. We're going to put a nice thin coat. If I can open that up. Come here. Get a screwdriver. There we go. And let's just put a little bit of that here, a little more, there we go. And we're going to put this nice, just covering all that up, all right? Again, I'm not worried about getting the wood with it or the metal with this, because, you know, this stuff is also a protectant. A lot of the smiths, you'll find them using this on their anvils and other equipment, which is what I should be doing as well. And I have not until now. So we got that going there. Let's get this. So I'm putting a light coat, but I'm still going to wipe it down after the fact. I just want to make sure that we get it nice and covered. And I forget if I did the spine there, so let's go ahead again. Appears that I did, yeah, it looks like I did. Okay. Yeah. I need to get some kind of container like I've seen some of the guys have, and actually start doing the whole dip it into this stuff, because it just looks cool when they do that. There we go. All right, I believe we have that all covered. See, I got my pass-through hole right here, and I'm just gonna take now, get that nice and flat. I don't want to have, you know, waves or anything, so I'm gonna just kind of lightly brush. All right, I can always put another coat, but if you get too much, now it's better to use, I will tell you, some type of lint-free cloth. This stuff's okay, but it's definitely not the best for doing this. And you can get a little bit, so far I'm good. I did see one or two little, in fact, where's my spectacles? Put these on, here we go. Yeah, all right. So my first time using linseed oil on a knife. Now my buddy Jason, for his first knife, he did want it for his, so he applied it. I just gave him some general instructions, and he went and did his, and it came out nice. Again, I'm just kind of making sure there's no like running or accumulation. And so far, everything is looking good. So I think I'm just about done here. Yeah. There we go. Voila. All right, so we're finished for tonight on this particular blade. We've got, again, let's run through the steps. What did we do? First of all, I just quick wiped down again, made sure everything was good. I assembled my materials ahead of time, because if you are going to be working with epoxy, like this stuff sets quick. In fact, when I wanted to do a touch-up, I barely could get even a fraction of something out of the syringe. But to do it, what I needed to do was, for those little bit of cracks where I had drilled and filed the brass and it wasn't an exact fit, what I did, I took my JB Weld epoxy, I mixed in the epoxy on a piece of paper like you should with a popsicle stick. Then I used the powdered brass. I put the powdered brass in it, stirred that thoroughly. Then I scooped that into a syringe. So if you want to use this, I recommend getting a syringe. It's a throwaway, but you know, it's worth it. So I'm gonna get a number of them just to keep on hand, because this stuff worked really well. Then I clamped it into here. I had it upside down, inverted. Right now it's handle up. Then I had it blade up so I could get down into there. I ran it like I run a bead of caulk, right? Did that around that face on there, and then on the back brass piece, I got it in those two joints that were there. Put that in. Let it dry just a bit so it was no longer running, but what was still, you could still, you know, wipe it and move it. And then I took a rag, just like you would do with your finger on that bead of caulk. I used the rag, ran that along, took out all the excess, got it rubbed off of the brass, got it rubbed off of the wood, made sure all that was good. Then I let it dry just a bit more. While that was drying, just looked everything over one last time. Then I set it back in here. Then we got out the linseed oil. I took the boiled linseed, I applied it on here, you know, fairly liberally, a light coat, but fairly liberally, covering the metal and not all the brass, but covering the fittings, the pins, covering that, covering the spine and underneath on the handle where it's that steel. Ran a coat, then I lightly wiped to make sure I wasn't having any kind of accumulation or run. I'm gonna let that dry overnight. I might apply, in fact, I probably will. First thing in the morning before work starts, I'll probably come in here, put another coat on that to let that do the same thing, so it'll let that dry thoroughly. Then after work, when I can come back in here, what I'll do is I'll take my fine sandpaper, I'm gonna just touch up and buff up those parts, make sure everything's nice and clean. Then I will strip off the oil on the blade, I will re-blue it, and we'll let that dry, and I might sharpen it tomorrow night. So that's that. Got everything done. Halloween night after trick-or-treating, which didn't really happen here because we have thunderstorms. We had one trick-or-treater. So with that, this is Mike here in St. Michael's Forge. I hope you had a great Halloween. I hope you're having a great week or start to your week. And with that, I'm going to sign off. I'm going to head in early, spend some time with Mr. G. I bid you good night. Take care, and as always, ciao.